Labor Day celebrates the contribution of workers in American society.
Observed on the first Monday in September, Labor Day is an annual celebration of the social and economic achievements of the American workers. The American workforce and how it is evolving is our big story today.
The U.S. Labor Department says it's unclear who came up with the idea for the holiday, but it started with unions in the late 19th century, a time when the union and labor movements were growing. The Central Labor Union planned the first Labor Day in New York City in 1882. In the coming years, individual states passed laws recognizing the holiday.
Then in 1894, Congress made it into a national holiday. And since then, the country has celebrated the achievements of the American worker the first Monday in September of every year. Leading into the holiday, the government released new data on the state of U.S. labor and the U.S. labor force. The August jobs report is showing employers added 187,000 jobs last month. That's slightly more than expected, but similar to the gains in July. The unemployment rate is now 3.8%, which is at pre-pandemic levels. That rate had been at 4% or lower since November of last year. And wages increased in the most recent report. Economists say the recent wage hikes have outpaced inflation.
The good news is that over the last year, wages, again, for the average household have gone up faster than inflation. And over the last several months, that's been particularly pronounced as inflation has continued to come down while wages continue to go up at a pretty steady rate.
The number of workers overall is tied for a 20-year high. At the same time, the number of women in the workforce is at an all-time high.
Labor Day's roots in worker-driven organizing seems especially visible this year. Contract negotiations and stalemates between unions and companies continue to be in the spotlight. Among those, the talks the United Auto Workers and Big Three automakers have been having since July. Contracts end in just a couple of weeks, and the UAW recently voted to authorize a strike if a new deal isn't reached. The union has also filed a complaint with the National Labor Relations Board claiming unfair labor practices. General Motors and Chrysler deny the union's claim that they are not negotiating toward a new contract in good faith. Ford announced it's made an offer of 15% increases in hourly wages and lump sums.
On the West Coast, a strike is going on. It's been going on for nearly 4 months. On the picket line are Hollywood writers. The Writers Guild of America strike has shut down most TV and film production in the country. One of the main issues is the labor dispute, pay raises, and the use of artificial intelligence and residuals from streaming media.
And some flight attendants expressing their frustration at some of the busiest airports while the holiday travel weekend started taking off. Just yesterday at Cleveland's airport, dozens of United Airlines crew members were on the picket line right outside the arrival area. The informational picket was part of a nationwide day of action calling for changes in the workplace. The union and airline have been negotiating new contracts for 18 months.
Flight crews say one of the frustrations they have is one shared with passengers, all of the cancellations and delays that are happening with planes. Today, the Transportation Secretary, Pete Buttigieg, addressed that.
We are on track to be at or below the typical rate of cancellations over the last decade. So not only are we seeing the system rebound from the worst effects of COVID, but we're seeing things come more in line with what we would have regarded as normal.
Between today and Wednesday, the Transportation Security Administration says air travel could be one for the record books. Security checkpoints expected to be the busiest today. Mike Valerio takes a closer look.
The summer vacation came back this year with a vengeance.
This weekend is capping what TSA reports is the busiest summer travel period on record.
And is ending with a boom.
FAA expects close to 50,000 flights today.
The TSA projects today will be the busiest day of the Labor Day weekend. More than 14 million passengers potentially packing airports now through September 6th. But on the horizon, a possible strike of American Airlines flight attendants, who overwhelmingly voted this week to authorize such a move. We asked Stan Sandberg of TravelInsurance.com if this weekend's travel could be affected.
You really don't have to be worried, but you should be aware of the changing circumstances.
And if you're heading to Florida, where Idalia canceled hundreds of flights earlier this week, briefly closing Tampa's airport, there's good news on that front.
There may be some residual delays, but I think most people can expect to have a pretty normal travel experience traveling to Florida.
However, travel experts also say to keep an eye on local guidance in the Sunshine State and consider rebooking if your plans include visiting some of the harder hit areas. For road trippers, gas prices are higher than usual for this time of year. The average hovering just over $3.80 a gallon this week, according to AAA. That's just a bit less than where we were this time last year. In Los Angeles, I'm Mike Valerio reporting.
All right, let's look at what you can expect to pay around Ohio. AAA says on average the cost will be $3.62 a gallon. That's a little less than what we were paying a year ago. In our area, the highest prices are in Ottawa, Sandusky, Erie, and Huron counties. The lowest in dark blue, Defiance County at $3.54 for a gallon of regular unleaded. Averages in most of Ohio's 88 counties are in the $3.60 or higher range, and the average prices in Michigan are about $3.71 per gallon.
Toledo's Labor Day parade is Monday morning downtown, and this year's parade will be honoring women in the workplace. Toledo police are expected to start setting up some street barricades around 7 a.m. Then the parade steps off at 9 a.m. at Summit and Monroe, and then heads up Summit to Jackson, to Huron, and back to Monroe, where it ends. We also want to give you a heads up that TARTA will operate on a holiday schedule Monday. TARTA and TARP's paratransit will run from 6:30 a.m. to 8:21 p.m. and Target Flex will run from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The schedule will return to normal on Tuesday.
While we've had some cooler temperatures of late, the thermometer is going back to toasty. That's where it's actually going to say toasty for Labor Day.
That's right. We're talking 90 degrees, and not just Monday. First Alert meteorologist Eric Witt joins us with the breakdown for the holiday weekend.
Yeah, guys, on the toaster there, you could turn it to that, degree 5 of toastiness, whatever the highest setting is. That's where we're going as we get into next week. But the hours ahead, not looking all that bad. As we get this weekend started, still around 80 degrees through dinner time, through the 70s this evening, 60s, and down into the 50s overnight. So almost a little taste of fall before the summer heat really gets cranking this weekend. Upper 80s for high temperatures Saturday. Sunday, we're into the low 90s. Monday, Labor Day itself, mid 90s. So the pool, the boat, frozen drinks, looking good for all of that these next 3 days. Let's take a look at your travel forecast, sort of look across the region where there may be any rain showers this weekend. If you're heading up to the UP this evening, could be some rain showers that direction. And then on Saturday, again, Michigan, but lower Michigan, Wisconsin. Now there could be a few rain showers as well as down towards Louisville, along the Ohio River, and going through the weekend. Here we are going to stay dry, but on Sunday, once again, activity trying to develop out in the Mississippi River Valley. That trend continues into Monday, and it's that moisture that you see off to the west on Tuesday that's going to try to approach us later in the week, but it's going to take some time. We'll be talking about when the rain will return to the area, and we'll be talking about that heat wave. We'll time it from start to finish. It's going to be a long one, so stay with us.
Thanks, Derek. While the weather will be quiet here, almost the entire Atlantic coast is on alert for rip currents. Add to that 5 to 10 foot waves, and it can prove to be a dangerous mix for anyone going to the beach this holiday weekend. At least 70 people were killed in rip currents in the United States this year alone.
You're more likely to get in trouble or drown in a rip current than you are to be struck by lightning in these conditions.
Experts say if you get caught in a rip current, the most important thing is to stay calm and then swim parallel to the shore and try to get to a sandbar. Remember, you can watch this full big story on our 13 ABC News app and others. It's available as a free download in your app store. You can just scan the QR code with your phone right now, aim it at your